Welcome to those who are listening to Pass the Mic, presented by the USC Master of Educational Counseling class of 2025 and brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go, Sports Bar. We are your hosts. I'm Alex Lozano, joined by Angel Vallejo, Hector Ramirez, and Justin Murchison. We have a great topic for you all today as we will be discussing a very important issue in higher education, which is if community colleges should offer bachelor degrees to undergraduate students, or should students continue to take them traditionally at a four-year college. So I wanted to present the first finding for students to take bachelor degrees at a community college. I believe that students are able to financially afford to pursue a bachelor's degree at a community college. I think that it would be very useful, especially for a lot of students who go to community college for a financial reason. We all know that the UC system and the CSU system and private schools are very expensive, especially if you do not get financial aid, especially if your parents are around that middle class area. Financial FAFSA tends to, uh, to not give financial aid for those type of students, and so those students are stuck having to take community college, which isn't bad. But why go to a four-year to take that when you could go to a second year, right? Continue at your second year, take it for low prices, and still obtain your bachelor's degree. Hector, do you want anything to add to that?
Yeah, so just to add on to your to be it being like financially affordable, getting like your bachelor's degree at a community college only costs like less than 11K, so $11,000. And then there's about like 72% of students that reported that they didn't take out any student loans or debt to finance their education. So it was primarily just from like how you mentioned like FAFSA or like scholarships. They didn't need to take out any loans or anything to pay off their degree. And then to add it on, like it allowed for a huge increment in social and economic mobility, especially because it provided like those who are low income, first gen students of color, in order for them to have more access and like an affordable path towards getting a bachelor's degree. A lot of students go straight from high school to the workforce, but they because they feel like they don't have enough money or they won't be able to afford to go to like a private school or a four-year institution right off the bat. But now being at a community college, they're able to just go straight to their bachelor's degree if it is something that all community colleges could offer around their community or neighborhood.
Okay, I do agree with you that it is an affordable route. But don't you think that like if community colleges offer these degrees, do you think it would carry the same value as a bachelor degree? And then to add on top of that, we already kind of see the trend where bachelor's degrees aren't really worth as much anymore. Most jobs now are requiring master's degrees for minimum qualifications for entry level jobs. So how would this look now? How would this change when we add bachelor degrees as from community colleges? I feel like it would kind of devalue the worth of a bachelor degree.
But you kind of But if you're saying that it doesn't, if getting a bachelor's degree doesn't really matter anymore because you need a master's, wouldn't you just rather take it at a community college then? If because you're also saying, oh, well, if you're gonna take it at a community college, it's not gonna be as good looking as taking it at a four-year, right? But then what's the point of taking it at a four-year if you're not even gonna be able to get into the career you want to get into?
That is true. Justin, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think community colleges historically offering 2 years associate's degrees in vocational training programs. That's kind of where they kind of started off as, and then a bachelor's degree at a 2 year going off of Angels. Not to say that it's really going to super devalue it, but if now you're putting that much more bachelor degrees out into the market, it does, supply and demand. If you got way more 4 years, then is it really going to be worth it at that point too? And going back to the potential funding challenges, we're saying that it is a lot cheaper. Um, as we all know, that usually when money gets involved with anything, stuff kind of gets a little odd. And with the community colleges being a cheaper route, if they do offer the 4 years, do you think that some presidents and deans are going to start to think, well, we offer 4 years, we can now charge more for these. So the affordability of that kind of goes away with that. I think that's a plausible explanation of what could happen in the future.
And to add on top of the funding, like if don't you think if this is a cheap degree and it doesn't cost as much, do you think that the quality of the education would be um worth it or would it be really well? Because I mean, I don't think they'll have the resources to fund like great programs or fund like good classrooms or fund like faculty. So I feel like the programs that the degree itself you wouldn't learn much from it.
And if financial aid is being taken away from four-year universities and added to more of the two-year universities, do you think that'd be a problem for a lot of four-years with their funding also too, where now they don't have the money to pursue stuff like research and other things of that nature, which not all, but a lot of like the UCs and other uh, institutions are research based. So that could be a potential drawback of funding going away from them and being added to a two-year college that would become four-year college, but is not research based.
So to argue against like what you guys are saying, obviously ever since community colleges were around, that it brought upon this jealousy within the UC and CSU systems because there's this tri-system in California that there's higher education between the UC, CSU, and CC. Um, but ever since California initiated their pilot program of bachelor's degrees, there was a report that there was an increase of an average of $28,000 that was increased within a student's income, and then around 98% of the graduates reported that they were employed within the field of which they studied for. Um, Same with UCs and CSUs. It's been known that a lot of them go into their field of study, but a lot of them also can't find a job after they graduate from their BA. And it's not because of from where they got their BA from, it's just because of the workforce and how everything is. But then it also comes down to society. Society might view a certain institution as more value. But at the end of the day, like any institution gives the same education. And personally, from my experience, when I went to community college, I want to say that my community college courses were much more interesting than a four-year institution courses. Like that's personally something that I wish that the UC system included more of, rather than just having this like a certain classes for the certain degree that you're reaching out for. I don't know, Alex, if you have anything.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Hector. I think just on my personal experience, when I attended community college at East Los Angeles College, I felt like I was learning a lot from my professors just because it was also it was a very small class as well. I felt like I was also able to build a relationship with my professors, you know. Um, I felt like it was all close. I felt like the students got close to each other as well, and we were able to learn a lot in that class. I would say for the four-year, when I transferred to a four-year, it was the same thing. It was a small classroom as well. I didn't depend on the, I guess the major you take, but I still see that it was a small class as well. In fact, it was smaller than the community college I went to. However, I felt like with the difference between the classroom size, typically four-years do offer a higher uh or a more broader lecture halls. Whereas community college, you don't really get that, right? And when you're stuck in a lecture hall at a four-year, you feel like the Buffalo Wild Wings wild sauce, you feel like everything's on fire, everything's crazy going on. But when you're at a community college, you just feel like, it's like sweet barbecue, bro. Like you're there, you're chilling, you're able to build connections, and it's sweet.
So to kind of go off that, I mean, I do that is, it does kind of suck that Hector, when you went to the four-year university, you felt like it wasn't, as possibly as good as the two-year. That could be because you went to UCLA. That's one of the reasons why. But but also, uh, when you were talking, Alex, about campus life of the community college, like, don't you think that if a community college, at least at this point in time, because not all community colleges we would say are going to be equals. Like Santa Monica has a lot more money than, let's say, Fullerton College. So the lack of the campus life, though, with some campuses having sports teams, not having others, do you think that when you just go that route, that school is obviously about education, but it's also about the experience. It's also about the networking, the social aspect of it. Do you think that a 2 year is going to be able to provide that in that with not having all the full resources that most 4 years, not all 4 years, but most 4 years have?
No, I see what you're trying to say, Justin. And but just remember that at the community colleges, you would be there 4 years now, right? And I feel like with that much time you're there at a community college, you're able to establish more relationship. You're able to establish a time, same thing as a Cal State or a university, right? You're able to because when I was at ELAC, I had spent 3 years there building connections, making relationships, right? And when I transferred out to Cal State Long Beach, I lost all, I mean, I didn't lose those connections or relationships, but I had to restart when I got to Cal State Long Beach. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to build any connections or relationships there. I just felt like that felt like my transfers uh like uh like a school I didn't belong at because I fit in so well at the community college, and I felt like if I was able to be offered a 4 year at ELAC, I would have stayed there because it was better, it was closer for me. It was as a commuter student, it was smaller time for me, worked around my schedule because I was also working as well. You can also remember that a lot of community college students are working part-time or maybe full-time as well. So they worked around my schedule. And third, I would able to be keep those connections as well and those relationships because I had to restart over there at the my transfer school. And if bachelor's degrees were able to be at the community college, it would prove a very viable and successful option for those students there. If you want to add anything to that, Hector.
No, yeah, I agree. My commute to UCLA was an hour from where I live, and when I went to ELAC, it was just a 5 minute drive. So like, um, sometimes when you go somewhere that's within your community, you feel more at home versus going to a different environment, which you don't feel at home. When I was at UCLA, it's a predominantly white school. So everywhere you would go, walking to class, walking to parking lot, walking to get lunch or something, there was always going to be white students there. But over here at ELAC, it was a much more diverse population. Every classroom I would walk in, like I see my own kind of people and I feel more comfortable. Not only that, but sometimes the professors that serve or teach at community colleges are more from the community because they want to give back to their community. They want to empower and give that education to their students versus 4 year institutions that are like top notch schools like UCLA. Um, their their professors, majority of my professors were white, so like they really couldn't understand where we were coming from unless it was my Spanish classes, which obviously my Spanish professors, they had a background within Latin American experience or some sort. So I get where you guys are coming from, but going back to like Angel's point, where like, do we feel like a bachelor's degree from a community college would be valued enough? Obviously not, because a lot of jobs see where you got your degree from, and they think that because you got it from UCLA or Ivy League school, like everything would be, their education would be better. But sometimes you get better education at a community college than at a 4 year institution off the bat.
I agree. I think for me at the end of the day, it's more about like trying to get a job. And like, let me ask you guys this question. Like, who would, like, if you saw like a degree from Yale, a person applying for with a degree from Yale and a person applying from a degree from ELAC, who would you guys hire if they all had the same qualifications?
I think just because me and Hector are kind of biased, I think we would choose ELAC because, obviously, um, we would we both transfer students. We've been through that, so obviously I think there'd be a bias. But honestly, just to clarify, I think I would rather look at like work experience, right? School, yes, right? School, be like, oh, cool, they went to ELAC, but then they also then there's another student who went to Yale, right? Um, but it will also be checking other things as well, right? So education does play a part of when, employers are looking at that as well. And I do agree with Hector that, you know, no matter what school you go to, you will be criticized, right? For example, my mom went to Platt College, it's a private college, and she's been had remarks when she applied to schools like, "Oh, Platt College, like you went there, like it's a private college," and yeah, she's still getting ridiculed for going there, even though it's a private college, and she didn't even go to a community. So, regardless, I feel like that's just gonna be human behavior to ridicule, wherever we go. But if you want to add anything to that, Hector.
No, no, yeah. Everywhere you go for school, like there's always going to be like a negative stereotype towards it. Like UC Santa Barbara party school. If you say you got your BA from Santa Barbara, they're probably going to be like, well, did you really learn or understand what was taught, because it is a party school. So there's always going to be like that categorization, and like they're going to apply it to you as an individual because of what school you went to. But I think the education will be everywhere, and personally for me, I'd prefer getting the same education um at a lower cost, obviously, if it's going to help me save money. Not only that, but if I'm gonna be able to work at the same time, then why not?
All right, I
And
agree with you. And sorry, you're gonna say something, Justin?
well, I was just going to say, and I, I do understand where everyone's coming from here too, but also with 4 years being at the size and having the monetary, the endowments that some of them do have, going to the 2 years, they don't have that type of money. So, and I know we're not going to be able to come up with the exact specifics with everything, but when we're talking about 4 year degrees that 2 years can produce, what are we what do you want to be seen? Because, like, for instance, I don't know exactly off the top of my head of how many degrees that USC has that they can give out, but at a 4 year, the staffing, classroom sizes, how many classrooms they have, would each college or community college then just specifically almost kind of major in certain ones, or would only certain majors be thought of? Because at that point, it kind of takes away from some 2 year universities being able to transfer to other schools that have the majors that they're looking into, and just being able for the 2 years to get your general ed out of the way, than to transfer to a school that has the facilities of whatever field you're looking to get into. Would would there be anything really, like, do you see any drawbacks of when you're adding the 4 years or the 2 year colleges into 4 years? Like, what degrees would we be instituting and which ones would we not be? Because we couldn't have all of them.
Yeah, so basically, like in the long run, do you think community colleges could continue funding these bachelor degree programs because they're going to cost more than other like just associate degree programs? And will it be able to maintain like quality education for the long run as well? Because you saw what happened to UCLA; they lost their educational counseling program. So do you think in the future, like community colleges will eventually lose these programs because they can't afford to keep funding them, especially if they're making it affordable for students as well?
No, I agree. I I can see that happening, and there would have to be, of course, a lot of funding for community colleges to go into, a lot of policy work going into that. That I don't think any of us have experience doing yet. But I know we will in the future. But I do agree that the community colleges, it would be interesting to see if they would be able to, financially support those bachelor degree systems, right? And also what Justin was saying, the experience as well, right? Like 4 years, you get certain sports, you get football, you get basketball, and etc. And we would have to be taking a look at that. But I also think that's up to the student, their choice whether they do want to get that, university experience or just getting a bachelor's degree at a cheaper cost. At the end of the day, I think it is a student's opinion and their own choice whether they would like to, transfer out to a 4 year to get their bachelor's degree or possibly stay at their community college and obtain a 2 year degree. Um, and just maybe kind of something like meeting in the middle, that I actually saw that is currently happening at Texas A&M, that I at the NASPA conference I attended back in March in Seattle. Um, they had this session where Texas A&M is actually um in partnership with their community college that is like nearby them. And what's cool is that community college students, they when they enroll into that college and into the program, they're able to take courses at the Texas A&M University without actually being enrolled at Texas A&M. So technically, they get the resources, the classes, everything included, right? They get to go to the games, etc. Even though they're at community college, they are able to act and be like a Texas A&M student. And I feel like it makes the transfer process easier. So that's maybe something interesting that we could see future universities and community colleges see and collaborate with. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that.
Yeah, I think overall, I think we have to see the long-term effects of community colleges producing bachelor's degree. Right now, it's still in its early processing, so it's going to take a while to see how well and how effective community colleges can manage bachelor degree programs and if they're able to fund them for a long period of time. I think the two main questions is can they fund them for the long period of time, and what the value of a bachelor's degree will be worth, like after students are graduating with these degrees. And it's true, it is very affordable, and it's very cost effective for students, especially for low income students. So this is a good option. So I guess these are questions that we need to have in the future and need to kind of like see what happens. I think we could end it here. Do you guys want to add anything else?
Yeah, I think like each one of us should probably just add one last thing. I would say that, if you're a community college student and you know you're stuck right now trying to figure out whether you want to get a bachelor's degree, and as of right now the only step is to go to 4 year university. Take the opportunity, enjoy it, get out there. But I also think that in the future we could possibly see bachelor degrees at community colleges. I think, for my personal opinion, I think it is very useful. I think it would come in hand, especially for students who financially need it. Um, and I would like to see that process happen and hopefully see where it goes. But also, like I said, the collaboration between community colleges and 4 years, I think is also very important as well. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, to add on, I feel like education can be anywhere. And if students decide to get their BA at a community college, that's totally fine. There's also that opportunity to get your master's degree or like your doctor's degree at another university. And obviously, a lot of employers would want to say that they have employees from like Ivy League schools or like top-notch private schools. But there's always that capability to get an extra degree from another school if you feel like your school is not that popular enough for employers and you feel like your degree isn't worth enough, then there's always going to be that opportunity to go to another school to get that master's, doctorate, or even another bachelor's degree if you want. But I just feel like every institution has a really good education, and it all depends on how you are um, financially and what you think is best personal for you.
Okay. Oh. Does anyone else have anything else to add?
Yeah, I just like to add though that although I do agree with the 2-year universities, I think some having some bachelor's degrees would be worthwhile. It's just the perception, the prestige of the community colleges really it has come a long way, but it needs to come further because if the perception of it isn't there, then you know like Alex, like you were saying, it's a travesty when people think just because you got a degree from somewhere, it's not as useful as somewhere else. And the other thing would be just the potential funding challenges funding it. I'd really like to kind of look more deeply into that because if that can be something that can be overcome, I think that'd be a great thing. But right now, I personally just don't see how it can be funded in this way, and how even 4 years would even allow that to happen. So that's another hurdle that they have to get over.
All right, awesome. Well, we'll leave it up to you, the listeners, to add on any comments or anything else you want to add into this argument. Thank you very much.